often as sensitive souls, we live in a life where we feel like we're floundering. Like, what are we supposed to do? Where are we going? Why don't we feel like we fit in? Why does it feel so uncomfortable? And oftentimes we can tie things back to a couple things that can be done in your life to help you feel more grounded, feel more like, okay, I have a path, I have a purpose. And I see it everywhere. I see it whenever I go onto the highly sensitive groups on, Facebook groups. I see it on Instagram where people share tips of essentially how to hide as a highly sensitive person, but not really shine as a sensitive soul. And that's what I want you to start doing. That is why I do what I do. That is my mission in life, is to get you to accept who you are as a sensitive soul and then recognize those things as a gift and then utilize it in the world to be a light worker, to help. Oftentimes, highly sensitive people are in jobs and careers and paths that just don't feel aligned, so they feel very lost. So how can we start to feel a little less lost? And that's what we're going to dive into today. And if you are new to the channel, I just want to say welcome. My name is Ginger, and welcome to Sensitivity Uncaged, where we here talk about sensitivity as a gift and how you can actually uncage yourself from these shackles that we say that keep us bound as sensitive souls. So that way we can start to learn to shine and feel grounded and really accept who we are, not change who you are, accept who you are. So welcome. And let's get into it today, where I said that we often feel so lost, right? Where are we going in life? What are we supposed to do? And why do I feel so, I don't know, I just think of like a fish out of water just flopping around everywhere. I mean, I get this because this is how I felt when I was in corporate life. And oftentimes as sensitive souls, it's very difficult when you are in careers and you are in things that don't feel aligned. So, and I'm not going telling you to just go and quit your job right now and be like, okay, I'm done. All right, what am I supposed to do? Because Ginger told me to quit my job because it's way too stressful and it's too much for me. No, there are ways to, one, yes, if you can, quit your job if it's way too much for you, because I will say corporate life was way too much for me. But I'm not saying to just go quit it, but that's the things you can do to start ground yourself so you don't feel like you're that freaking fish just flopping around everywhere. So let's talk about it. If you are feeling lost as a highly sensitive soul, one, valid, normal. We often feel like we're living in this world where we don't fit in. We feel different. And so when we feel different and trying to push ourselves into what everyone else is doing, that makes that different bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you retreat. You start to teach yourself that that's what I'm supposed to do. I don't fit in here and this doesn't work for me. So you start to retreat. You start to isolate. You start to keep yourself away from people, things, places. And this is where I see, people say they retreat to the country or they retreat to somewhere where they don't have to speak to somebody anymore. And if that's your thing, cool. All right, great. But you also weren't put on this planet to live this tiny little life completely isolated from everything and everyone. Because what happens whenever you do that is you start to lose yourself in the isolation. So let's talk about if you're feeling really lost as a highly sensitive person, as an empath, what can you start to do that will help you find a path? First thing, and I'm going to write this down so you can see it. What do you value? I do an exercise. I actually have a vision board workbook that I have done multiple years with people, not just sensitive souls, even though most people that come to me end up being or they find out they're sensitive souls. They don't understand what they value. What is important to me? And there's a little values exercise that I do every single year for myself because your values can change. A lot of people think their values cannot change. This is the thing now. When you are living in your values, the things that you love, that light you up, that when you are a sensitive soul and you're doing something that lights that fire, that's where changes happen in your life. Why? Frequency. So if you're always vibrating at a lower frequency of I want to be alone, I don't fit in, I'm uncomfortable, I'm this and that, you start to shrink. And so your energetic frequency starts to shrink. So if you want to start to increase that energetic frequency, bring in different frequency, different vibe into your life, start living in your values. You're like, well, how do I figure that out? Okay, I will drop a values exercise in here, a very simple exercise that you just go through and say, what is important to me? Adventure is important to me. I want to experience different things. And that's not going to be bungee jumping because I don't want to go do that, but I want to go travel to other countries and experience culture and stuff like that. So, adventure is one of my core values. And this is tying into core values. What lights you up? What gets you excited? And then tie everything, your goals, everything to those values. And again, your values are going to change. They could change at any point in your life. What are your values? And I'd say like 2 to 3 top values max. When you start to live aligned in your values, again, this is where your frequency starts to expand, but it's also going to it's going to be a higher level frequency. So you're pulling in things. What you'll notice is that you'll pull in things that are more aligned with those values the more that you live in that value. So when you live in your core values, you're going to increase your energetic frequency. And that is a huge thing for sensitive souls because when you're living in a higher level frequency, then you are going to bring more of that into your life. And you already vibrated a different frequency. So it's like really multiplied. Okay. So core values. What are your values? I'll drop a little exercise in here that you can do and start to live in those values and see how your frequency changes. Okay, next one. I'm going to write this down. Joy. What brings you joy? One, when you are living in your values, you're going to be living in more joy. But what brings you joy? Small things that bring you joy. When we are so focused on everything external and we are not focusing on the things that are really going to bring us that expansion of frequency, that bring us the things that make us feel truly happy, we start to feel like we're shrinking. We start to feel like life is hard because we are forgetting about all the little things that bring us joy. And this can be as small as going outside for a walk. This can be dancing in your kitchen, singing with a spoon with your kids. It's so small. It doesn't have to be big things. Do the little things. Walk in the sun. Go do a yoga class. And yeah, maybe it's a little scary. Ask yourself, like, is this going to make me feel good? Yes or no? And if it doesn't, if it's like a no, then don't do it. But if it's because I'm really scared to go into this class and do this by myself, then that's really just your ego telling you not to do it. It's not your heart center. So you can always put your hand on your heart and say, is this something that I truly want to do? Is this going to bring me happiness? And if it's a yes, go for it. If it's a no, then don't. And this is the last one. And this one, get creative. And you can see that these all tie together, right? They're all going to bring you joy. They're all going to increase your energetic frequency. They're all pointing you in a direction to do things that make you feel better. Because when we stew in the anxiety, the overwhelm, the hypersensitivity to all the things that are going on around us, that's what we focus on. But when we start to focus on these things, what lights us up, what brings us joy, that is whenever a light worker shines. This is when a light worker, because yes, you are a light worker. If you are a sensitive being on this planet, you are a light worker. And this is when you shine. I cannot explain it enough. This is when you shine. Get creative. So I wish I knew how to paint, but I've always been scared to buy canvases, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to mark my words. I'm going to do this because when we moved to Florida, I couldn't find nightstands that I liked, and so I decided I am going to buy some and paint them myself. And the act of painting those nightstands, I thought were going to be so irritating, and I was like, ugh, just another job to do, has been so therapeutic for me. Just I do it. I listen to a podcast, sometimes music. Sometimes I just do it in silence. And I'm in the garage. It's in Florida. I'm sweating. It's almost like my sauna while I'm sitting there and painting. It is me getting creative. I picked these so I could paint them. I picked the color. I'm going to change out the hardware. I forgot how much I love to do this kind of stuff. I think what I want to do next is take it to a canvas, but then there's in all my ego thoughts of why are you going to do this or sign up for an art class? What's the point? You're going to suck. Who cares though? What does it matter? When you are doing these things, living in your values, finding those things that bring you joy, those small, and I'm going to put that in there, small. Again, I don't need you to do all the big things. Small. What are those small things that bring you joy, that make you smile? Going for a walk in the evening, stepping outside, feeling the sun, going to the ocean, standing on the top of the mountain. What are those things that bring you those small moments of joy, micro moments? As a sensitive soul, you've got to start looking at life as this big package of, and I get this because I'm a victim to this too. I look at this big package of just like junk, right? It's just hard. Life is hard. But when you start to look at those micro moments, it starts to shift things. And in those micro moments, you're like, this creative muscle's flowing. I can feel my energy shifting. I can feel the happiness. I can feel the smile. I can feel the stuff shifting in my body. This is what starts to heal a sensitive soul. It is finding that alignment, and that alignment might look so simple as sitting down and eating a meal intentionally. It may be having a glass of wine and thinking about the taste while you are sitting and looking at the water. It may be doing that yoga class or going to that sound healing. Find those small micro moments and tie everything back to those values. What do you value in life? What is it that you value? That is going to be so incredibly important for sensitive souls to understand, because a lot of times it's going to tie back to one, things that you want to do that make you happy, but oftentimes the value also expands into how can you help people, and finding ways that you can help others and use that light workerness in you, and that makes you shine. That brings out that light in you, that energy in you. And then getting creative. What can you do? Painting furniture has been my escape this past summer. And it was a lot. Finding that time to just go out there and paint just felt like, So get creative, making jewelry, painting, drawing, get that muscle flowing. And when you start to do those again, the light worker begins to shine. So if you're feeling really lost as a sensitive soul, oftentimes this happens. We feel like that fish out of water, just floundering around and wondering, what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do next? How am I supposed to feel any kind of happiness? Look at the world around me. Look at all the things around me. And there's that putting in that big picture of just, bleh. It's all there, right? It feels heavy. So you start looking at those micro moments of things that don't feel so damn heavy, and find those micro moments of joy through living in your values, living in your joy, living in what gets you creative, and expanding your energetic frequency. When you begin to expand your energetic frequency, things begin to flow and start to align for you. So who knows, maybe you start to live in a specific value and you volunteer somewhere. And then all of a sudden it turns into a job opportunity. And that job opportunity allows you to leave the corporate role that you have been hating for 15 years. What? How did that happen? Because you began to expand your frequency, because you began to live in a different frequency, because you were doing something that aligned with your soul. And we are soul-led creatures, heart-led creatures. So yes, we have an ego. Yes, it feels like oftentimes when you're doing this new thing that a cheetah is going to run and eat you. And you might be like, whoa, what do you mean by that? Because we have our ego steps in and says, oh, you're in danger, doing something new. But ignore it. Ignore it. Listen, put your hand on your heart. Is this something that my ego's telling me I shouldn't do? Or is it something that I should move with my heart, with my soul, and move forward with that? When sensitive souls start to live through their heart center and they start to live that soul-led life, energy shifts. Let me know what you think about this. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tell me down below. I want to know, what is something you're going to do this week? Maybe it's one little thing that brings you joy and you start to incorporate that. You figure out your core value. Again, I'll just drop in the core values exercise. Pick one thing. Pick one thing that you can do to start changing that frequency and let me know how it goes. All right, I'm sending you all so much light, love, and beautiful energy. Have a great day, y'all.